Today, we're going to go through how to instantly release your hip flexor. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Tony Ryan, neuroathletic coach. I help 30 to 50-year-olds get out of pain and perform at their best. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. If you like this video, hit the like button. And if you don't like it, hit the dislike button and go find something you do like. So today, we're gonna go through how to get rid of tight hip flexors. A lot of people have tight hips and it's just really uncomfortable. And this could be for a number of reasons. We all spend a lot of time sitting these days because we're in front of screens. The screen time itself could be causing issues because of our visual system and a number of other reasons. We're not going to get so far into that today, but I do want to give you guys a quick solution to be able to help get rid of this pretty fast. So what we're going to focus on today is called your psoas muscle. It attaches to some of your vertebrae in your spine and your thigh bone, and it helps with hip flexion. It helps with some trunk bending and rotation and things like that. So today, we're going to go through how to activate it via some nerves and help give it better stimulation and better signals from our brain. And then we're actually going to go through mapping it as a muscle. So teaching our brain how to contract it well. And then that should be able to help our hip flexion and our hip extension and just loosen up our hips generally. So what we're first going to start by doing is a couple different tests to see how the drills are actually going to help us today. So we want to make sure we can always assess and reassess. So we'll start by doing that. The first one that I'm going to do is just a basic hip flexion test. So what I'll do is I'll stand here, I'm going to bring my hip up as far as I can, and I'll do this 2 or 3 times just to see how high I can get. And that's about all I got right now. So that's going to be my baseline. You can mark that with your hand and kind of feel where your hand is. You can mark it with something on the wall. However you choose to measure it, that's up to you. And then the second test that we're going to do is for hip extension. So typically if I want to test my hip extension, I'll go in some kneeling position like this, and I'll just see how far I can go. And really just check how uncomfortable that is. So I have like a subjective level of assessment, and then I have more objective, which is the distance that I can go. So it's about as far as I can get right there. So that'll be my test for my hip. So we have flexion and then this extension right here. Good. So what we're going to start with is a femoral nerve glide. So it's going to be a tensioning sequence for our femoral nerve, which helps innervate that psoas. So it's going to help get better signaling and activation to it. When you get into this kind of stretching sequence that we're going to do, make sure you don't get above a 3 out of 10 on intensity. I've said this previously with other nerve mobilizations we've done, but definitely don't make sure that you're not going past that. It's not necessary. So what you're going to do is get into a position like this. If the knee flexion, so this knee bend, is too much for you and you don't want to hold this up on something, don't worry about it. You don't have to do that part. But we want hip extension, knee flexion, and then we're going to actually go as far as we can into this until we hit about that 3 out of 10. And then we're going to do a couple different movements to help mobilize the nerve, okay? So what we'll first start with is some pelvic tilts. So just a slight posterior tilt and then back out of that. You can see those slight movements there. You'll feel that tension kick up real fast depending on how mobile or flexible you are. And then once you've done a couple of those, what we'll do is we'll do some mobilizations. And I want you to think about the middle of your low back here. So we're looking at like L2, L3 is what if you know your anatomy. But I want to do some tilts away from the side that I'm working on and then rotate away. I'm going to tilt away and then rotate away. And then as you feel more comfortable and the tension kind of starts to decrease, you can go deeper and deeper into that to be able to get more tension as you do the movements. So about 4 or 5 pelvic tilts, about 4 or 5 mobilizations from the spine, and then relax your way out of that. So I'm going to put up a quick picture of this psoas muscle so you understand what we're trying to do here. To do a full contraction, we're trying to bring the attachment points together. So where it attaches in the thigh and where it attaches in my back, I'm trying to bring those points together. That's the point of this contraction. So as you're doing that, I want you to have that type of focus, all right? So what we're going to do to start is we're going to rotate the thigh away from our midline, and we're going to bring it up away from us, okay? So that's the first start. Then I want you to hinge over your waistband, pretend there's a broomstick on your waistband, and hinge over it. And you're going to already start to feel some contraction in that inner thigh, maybe up even into the back. Then, if you're able to, you can add in some more advanced things, and you're actually going to tilt your pelvis anteriorly. So if your pelvis was a bucket of water, you'd be spilling out the front. And then you're going to actually tilt towards that side. So you should feel a nice little contraction from the muscle that's going from your thigh to your low back. And the more you can actually advance each of those movements, the more intense it'll get. And you kind of see me shaking now. That can happen, okay? If you're getting cramping, I want you to back it off, but hold that for about 20 to 30 seconds, get that full contraction, and then come back and retest your hip flexion, your hip extension. Then I'll retest my flexion, and that's much better. Feels a lot easier to move. Yeah. And you can see that those are both better, right? So I tested my flexion, test my extension, and that feels much, much better. So hopefully that was helpful for you when you did your reassessment. And you can see now why we assess and reassess all the time, because we want to have data and metrics on whether or not this stuff is helpful for you. If it wasn't as helpful for you, just remember there's a ton of other things that you can address. You can work on your visual system, your vestibular system. There's so many other inputs that you can work on to make progress in the direction that you want. So just be persistent and keep looking for things that'll help. So again, thank you guys for joining me today. I really appreciate you showing up. If you found this helpful, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe so you don't miss any content, and I'll see you on the next one.